This is a Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God.
It's like it's a psychological, philosophical, spiritual, mental experience that's the totality of what you think you are as a human being translated into a new experience of yourself, which is no longer a body, no longer believing in death, no longer believing in separation, no longer believing in anything other than a whole new experience of yourself, which ends up being light.
This course was sent to open up the path of light to us, to teach us step by step how to return to the eternal self we thought we lost.
In this film, Jesus Christ of Nazareth and enlightened teachers like him will share the memory of their enlightenment and realization of Christ's mind. You will be taken on a personal journey of individual awakening and resurrection and experience A Course in Miracles, the mind training program through which the real world is attained and true freedom from the bondage of space and time accomplished.
I was given A Course in Miracles, and it was the first thing that ever made sense to me, that there was something beyond this world that was my reality, and that God didn't know about this condition of suffering and sickness and death.
A lot of the concepts and the ideas that were being expressed in the Course in Miracles, the fact that there is no world, the fact that reality is singular, the fact that there is no death, the fact that I am totally responsible for everything I see and everything I experience. Energetically, I just knew that that was true.
The Course in Miracles study, or our Miracles Recovery Program, we started out with different names, try to be creative, a way out, all these types of things. The program remains essentially the same, that it's a program of spiritual recovery. I say it's a Christian-based spiritual recovery program, and that it's the only type program offered here at Dodge like that.
Don't be afraid of what you might see. Open the book. Don't be afraid that it says nothing that I see means anything.
I opened it at random, and it said, I need do nothing. I need do nothing. So I went and sat down and read it, and I was crying, and I was so grateful. Because for the first time, I felt that I wasn't alone. I was not alone.
I had an experience of Jesus being with me. And I will never forget that experience, because that opened up a new way for me in my life.
I oddałam moją ostatnią małą księgę cudów, bo wiedziałam, że spotkam dziś jeszcze jedną dla mnie. I wiecie co? Parę miesięcy później spotkałam grupę osób, które miały wielką księgę cudów, podyktowaną przez Jezusa. Także to nie ja go znalazłam, to Jezus znalazł mnie. I wtedy wiedziałam, aha, to ty byłeś ze mną już wcześniej. Dzięki Bogu.
So what is A Course in Miracles? A Course in Miracles is a direct communication from God through Jesus Christ, indicating the apparent conditional situation between God and man, which is one of false separation, and the way in which that apparent separation is and was repaired. The sole purpose of A Course in Miracles is to bring enlightenment through the transformation of your mind.
I have undergone a spiritual awakening experience. I have undergone an experience of enlightenment and a healing of my mind and body through a miraculous change of my mind. Now, this was part of a process that actually started when I was pretty young. I had experiences while I was growing up that showed me that there was a whole other way to think and live that was different than what you would call, normal reality. Now, one of the key components of my awakening experience was A Course in Miracles.
So this began, like it probably did for a lot of people, with an experience of being a human being. Anything that I tried, I began to see how repetitive and small it was. It wasn't giving me any satisfaction anymore. And so this was a key turning point for me.
One of the great lessons that I learned prior to my illumination, and the idea that I could share through prayer, for example, the simple idea that there is a factor, a governing factor of eternal life that was not represented within my own time frame. That's the experience that I had. But it was brought about by the frustration that you must be beginning to feel about the idea that no matter what you do within this little limitation of body, you're going to get exactly the same result. That was part of my journey that led to my illumination. The other part was a frustration I felt of wanting to journey to the stars, wanting to know what was out there, wanting to go beyond the perimeters. I remember this is in the 30s, and Shapley had come up with the idea that there were nebulas were actually galaxies of billions of stars. I was so fascinated by that, I would stand out and look, and I knew it was there. So I began to look at it within the factor of my own body identity, and anybody in their right mind would see immediately that I was being denied access to the universe by the simple procedure of being locked in this carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. The idea that I would have to strap on a helmet in order to maintain a gravitational association with myself to get to another planet was absurd to me. Not that I didn't enjoy the adventure of doing it, but the frustration that the procedure in which I operated and identified as myself could not possibly travel to the stars. And I underwent an illuminate experience that I'm offering to you and that is offered to everyone who is on the threshold of the transformation of their mind, in the realization of the inevitability that you, as a human, will have this experience because you are in the transition of having it. The idea of coming from time, the idea of separation, the idea that you were isolated in this little dark form, and are beginning to have the experience of the entirety of you. When is it going to go on? Right here, right now. When did it go on? Right here, right now. What did it have to do with the world that I see out there? Nothing.
I do clearly remember like being a baby and being held by my mother. I remember not being able to communicate and being fully aware and fully conscious, and the feeling of being trapped and completely incapacitated, I guess you would say, was overwhelming. It was just like, it began a whole idea in my mind of the limitation that I was in, being in a body or being in the world.
The world you see is the delusional system of those made mad by guilt. Look carefully at this world, and you will realize that this is so. For this world is the symbol of punishment, and all the laws that seem to govern it are the laws of death. Children are born into it through pain and in pain. Their growth is attended by suffering, and they learn of sorrow and separation and death. Their minds seem to be trapped in their brain, and its powers to decline if their bodies are hurt. They seem to love, yet they desert and are deserted. They appear to lose what they love, perhaps the most insane belief of all. And their bodies wither and gasp and are laid in the ground and are no more. Every single one of them has thought that God is cruel. If this were the real world, God would be cruel, for no father could subject his children to this as the price of salvation and be loving. Love does not kill to save.
All my life, I always felt like something was wrong, something was missing, and I thought it was in me, that there was some kind of lack, and I never could figure out what that lack was, but I felt guilty and ashamed for just being here, and I didn't understand why I felt that way.
Ended up in a refugee camp in Croatia during the war in former Yugoslavia, and met refugees from Bosnia, and I guess I will never forget that image of that camp, of the condition that they were in. Like, that was pretty horrible to me, seeing like in their toilets where the shit was running down from the wall because the pipes were broken, and there was nothing better to shelter them, and they had nowhere to go. No country wanted to have them.
And one particular image which has never left my mind is a man walking and dragging his skin behind him like it was a shadow. Something about seeing that particular thing gave me no hope of finding happiness, because I thought, if this kind of thing is going on all the time somewhere, someone's suffering somewhere all the time, this isn't a place where I'll ever really experience peace.
Then a critical moment happened when I was 15. My mother died. She got really sick, and next thing she was gone. You know, she left her body, and that was like a really defining moment. It was like where this disillusionment with the world was total. I just saw no purpose and no hope in the world, where you lose the things you love, and my mother was no longer here. She was gone.
This world you seem to live in is not home to you. And somewhere in your mind, you know that this is true. A memory of home keeps haunting you, as if there were a place that called you to return, although you do not recognize the voice, nor what it is the voice reminds you of. Yet still you feel an alien here, from somewhere all unknown. Nothing so definite that you could say with certainty you are an exile here. Just a persistent feeling, sometimes not more than a tiny throb, at other times hardly remembered, actively dismissed, but surely to return to mind again.
I am offering you my certainty, as we just read together, that you're an alien here, that you don't belong here, that the idea that you are separate from what everything is within this containment of space-time is not true, and that the light that you are beginning to reflect in your certainty of the converting nature of your conceptual identities will show you a new harmony that we share in a declaration that we intend to escape from space-time.
These moments are really intense memories of what really my experience was of being in this world, being a human being with my relationships and my petty purposes. Yeah. Loneliness. I would feel lonely in cafes. I would feel lonely in crowds. And I was aware of that. And I thought, this is weird. This is weird. I see hundreds of people right now in a shopping mall, for instance, and I feel lonely. So looking back at those memories, I didn't see it then, but I didn't belong here. I didn't fit in. It didn't make sense.
I never really felt that I fit in. I always felt that I was different. And even in my family home, I didn't feel like I fit in. And when I would go visit friends or family, I never wanted to go home because I never felt that that was really my home.
I just wanted there to be something else, because where I found myself in terms of my experience of myself, my family life, just the world I found myself in was simply not acceptable to me. It was just not okay with me in any regard. And I desperately needed there to be some other reality, something else, some other place where I felt I belonged.
I got really frustrated and really mad at God. I decided that it had to be His fault, that I couldn't get back to that joy, that He must be making me stay here in the life that I seemed to be living in. It wasn't a life that I wanted even at 7 years old. It's like, this need not be this way. I knew it need not be this way, that there had to be a much better way than this, and I had experienced that, and that was the experience I wanted.
Everyone knows of what we speak, yet some try to put by their suffering in games they play to occupy their time and keep their sadness from them. Others will deny that they are sad and do not recognize their tears at all. Still others will maintain that what we speak of is illusion, not to be considered more than just a dream. Yet who, in simple honesty, without defensiveness and self-deception, would deny he understands the words we speak?
By the time I was 17, I knew that there was something so absolutely and fundamentally and completely wrong with this world that I basically wasn't able to just go on as everyone else, as all my friends were going on. I had experiences of just watching TV, of just, actually I was driving with a bicycle. That was a really big experience. I was driving with my bicycle in Berlin down a road, and there was an old folks' home. And every person was an old lady that was looking out the window. And they had no expression in their face whatsoever. And they were just, out of every window was one old woman looking out. And something happened where I couldn't just go on and just think about myself.
Like I had a hero bass player that I went to go see, and I saw that I was following the same path that he was. And in the instant, and as I was watching him, I saw the time collapse to the completion of the idea that he was following. And he was sitting there playing bass, and all of a sudden, he literally started to turn to bones. He literally turned into bones in front of me, and I went, oh my God, this is my life. I'm simply going to do this, and I see the end of my life right now. And I see what the result is going to be. And I'm seeing it right now. And as soon as you have an experience like that, you go, man, what am I doing? Like, what am I really doing? What is my purpose for? What am I really here for?
There's no need for you to suffer from that idea you have about yourself. There's no need for you to allow this world to tell you what you are. There's no need for you to react objectively with the idea that you are a body. The alternative that I am offering you now, within your own dream, will be so bright and real to you in this metamorphosis, in this awakening process, that at any moment, you right there are liable to spring into eternal light.
there was a moment in my bathtub where I just simply asked, you know, God, I don't even know if there really is a God. I had been practicing that there was a God, but really in my mind, I didn't really know if there was one. And I just said, Father, God, whatever you are, I need help. I'm simply experiencing a feeling that I don't want to carry on. I can't do this anymore. I can't maintain my life the way it's been.
You really can't leave the world as long as you're happy with it. You have to get into an experience where you're not happy with where you find yourself. And you're really asking for more, that there's got to be more to life than this.
And I looked at the ditch and I went like, I'm going in here and I'll never come out. I will not get up because there are no answers. It is impossible. I've tried everything to do what I was taught to do, and it hasn't worked because I absolutely physically and mentally and emotionally, I was a wreck.
I fell on my knees, I raised my arms to the heavens, and I shouted, God, please help me. That was a crucial moment, and at that time, my time was up.
I got to the very, very bottom of my heart, to the very depths of my soul, and asked for help because I could not stand myself, my mind, or what appeared to be happening to me in the world.
What if you recognize this world is an hallucination? What if you really understood you made it up? What if you realized that those who seem to walk about in it, to sin and die, attack and murder and destroy themselves, are wholly unreal?
We really believe that we're in a world of separate bodies and separate time and separate space and separate people, separate ideas, separate minds, and we really behave as though we are in an objective reality. But if I were to take an electron microscope or a subatomic particle zoomer and really look at you, what I would actually see is a wave of energy that's connected between you and everything else. Everything is literally this sea of energy that's swimming around and in some form of communication.
The world you see has nothing to do with reality. It is of your own making and it does not exist.
I suddenly saw what the Course in Miracles was really about for me. And it truly was getting that I'd made up this world, that this world was not real, that I was in a dream. And there was a reality beyond this, something wonderful.
And one day there was an amazing thing happening. In my mind, it was like inside out and outside in. And suddenly I had like, wow, this is a dream here. I'm here just in a dream.
Somehow I knew this is not real, all of a sudden. It was like this movie that I was watching, and what am I doing here?
You are at home in God, dreaming of exile, but perfectly capable of awakening to reality. Is it your decision to do so?
I'm just so grateful, but I want everything. I want full enlightenment. I want to wake up.
I really needed to know what was going on, what the problem was, and how to get to, enlightenment.
I knew somewhere that there was access to another experience, to another reality, you might say. And I wanted that more than anything.
My experiences as a Christian, even as a Christian minister, brought me to passages in the Bible. Be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind.
I came to the realization that nothing was going to change out there. It was like the turning point came in my mind when I realized the change had to occur within my own mind. And from that moment on, I was driven by the idea of transformation of mind. So anything I could get my hands on to read, workshops, that was it. Just transformation of mind. I needed help. So I spent years doing that. And you know what? It didn't work. It just didn't work. I just, finally I just threw all the books away. Nothing worked, and I was devastated. And I woke up one morning and I actually prayed. And I can remember this prayer like I just said it, which I did. And it was, God, please help. I want to know what love is. I don't know, but I'm ready for you to show me. Asking for help was the turning point for me. That's where A Course in Miracles came in to my awareness.
And it was just around that time that the Course in Miracles came into my life. And the book landed in my lap, and I opened the book and I started to read it. There was an energetic spark in me, and I instantly knew that this was an answer. This was the answer.
The process is a beautiful thing because you always hear about renewing the mind, but actually going through a process that actually helps you to do it, that really helped me the most. And that was the most beautiful thing about the Course in Miracles.
The Course tells me some people get it by sudden experiences, some people get it by going to the point of death and then coming back from that. Many, many people get it by virtue of doing the workbook. In certain respects, I've had all three experiences, but mostly it has been by doing the lessons of the workbook, by staying focused and attentive to what it is that the Course is offering me.
The introduction to the workbook of A Course in Miracles says specifically that the ideas that are being expressed in the Course, that I need not necessarily accept them. I need not believe them. Some of them I may even actively resist. None of this matters. I just need to practice the ideas, just apply the ideas. And that would be enough to prove or to demonstrate to me that they are true.
I started practicing the workbook, but I didn't understand any of it. I didn't understand what lessons 1, nothing I see means anything. I didn't know what any of that meant, but I didn't really care because I was at a point of knowing I'd found something that I'd been looking for a very long time. And so I started getting very excited and worked the workbook day and night, just as it directed me to do. And I started to get happy, and my fear started to disappear. And I can even say that within 6 months, I felt fearless for the first time in my whole life.
It felt to me, when I began to read the lessons, like somebody had entered into my brain and was moving my brain around. And I was terrified. It terrified me. I was totally terrified. It wasn't anything that I wanted to do. And I didn't know what to do. It was very clear to me that it was something that came from outside of this frame. The authority was unmistakable. And it was very obviously Jesus Christ speaking. And that scared me even more, because I always saw Jesus as a very hard taskmaster who could accomplish something that nobody could possibly hope to match.
The first lesson of A Course in Miracles is, nothing I see means anything. And when she said that, I immediately began to go, that cup doesn't mean anything. And I just began to apply the lesson to the things that I saw around me. And I immediately had sort of I can't explain it except sort of like one of those, oh my goodness, something was sort of moving in me.
And that was the most incredible experience, because by the time I had done that lesson 5 times, something happened. And I can't explain what it was, but something changed in me because I followed the directions.
I opened it up at the first lesson and it said, nothing I see means anything. And it was as if my entire universe relaxed. I was so happy. Amazing.
Progress that you have made in training your mind in a systematic way to a new way of looking at yourself and the world has reached the point, very simply, if you've been sharing with my mind this Course in Miracles, that you're going to have to admit to an experience Remember that a Course in Miracles is an indication of a procedure where you can come to know the truth of universal mind through the change in yours, since your mind represented the split mind, or the idea that there could be separate forms of reality outside of you.
It was like an experience of, like a revelatory experience all the time, because my mind was being corrected, my thinking process was being corrected, and I saw that everything that I did was so upside down.
And suddenly my mind was different. I was in this state of complete peace, and it was really still, and I could see my thoughts. They were just floating by like clouds, and they had no effect on me whatsoever.
I had a physical experience of light that only now I can describe as light. That was completely cellular, a complete unraveling of every cell, just popping into a new light experience.
And I don't know how that offset my mind to the degree that it did, but I saw I couldn't die. At this point, the answer's here. I have no goal, nowhere to go. And when I looked back, when I looked at all of human history, I saw it was just a story in my mind.
I got realigned. I don't have another word for it. I felt I was redirected back on my path, on my recognition, on my passion, on the sense of being here at all. And it was so intense, it was physical. And again, this old thing was knocking on my shoulder. It was also fearful. But, oh my God, purpose, sense of direction, fulfillment, it immediately filled me up. It just filled me up. I knew why I was here. I had a reason. I had a purpose. It was spectacular.
And as I do the workbook lessons and apply the ideas, it becomes more and more tangible as an experience that the world I see has nothing to do with reality. It is of my own making, and it does not exist. And just behind this world of apparent separate forms and chaos, there literally is a world of light in which everything is unified. I guess you could call it the quantum field. And the beautiful thing that occurred in my awakening is that all of these ideas suddenly made sense to me, and they all came together as one whole experience. Whether it be the Course or the quantum experience, the quantum theories, or the Bible, the New Testament, suddenly all of this, even the Eastern teachings, became one whole experience of myself coming to know the truth of who I am.
The mind training of A Course in Miracles is the awakening of consciousness. It is the awakening of my true self.
Who walks with me? Who walks with me? Yeah. Who walks with me?
all I had to do was say, above all else, I want to see things differently. I don't know how, but that's what I want. I don't want this conflict, and I don't want this separation anymore. And it's possible not to have it. Okay, show me.
What's actually occurred in your enlightenment of body form is a purpose for being here. Will you share that with me? Human, when you examine all of the accomplishments that you make within the formulation of this little place in space-time, all of your purposes through achievement of the idea of yourself has always only led to death. What's occurred in this new arrangement of space-time that we now share are nothing but a new purpose for being here. Now, the entirety of your new representation with me is very simply to escape from space-time. Okay? Because the invention of space-time are the procedure by which you identify yourself in location, in this little hubble of death. So the lessons that we're employing, like, above all else, I want to see differently. I renounce death at this moment. I'm determined to see differently, are being shared by this new continuum of time that represent our certainty of love for each other.
But I remember I was in a class and the teacher looked at me and said, I'm going to take death away from you. Now at the time, I mean, I had no idea what was going on. Apparently this was a class on A Course in Miracles. And the teacher looked right at me and I literally laughed out loud. And all I remember is I was in a place in the back of my mind and there was a door which was partially open. And it was shown to me that this was how I get out of here. When things get too rough, I will use this door to slip out of this particular sequence. And what happened is the door closed, and my very first thought was, how the hell do I get out? How do I get out now?
The way you get there, the way out of this box of time and space, is that you let go of all those ideas of a story. Wow, that's incredible.
It's A Course in Miracles. A course in training my mind to recognize that the thoughts that I hold in my mind are giving me a result of what I want to see. And that if I decide, I can change what I see and how I experience myself and experience something entirely new.
Something has to happen in me, like an evolution in my mind. I realized that what I thought about myself and what I thought of what reality was holding me back and was holding me and imprisoning me in this cycle of living and dying.
My experience now, after doing this for a while, is that I'm the one who's telling the world what it is, and my experience will be what I let the world be. And I don't want to see anymore a world which is excluded from myself. So I cannot find a nice place in my mind and excluding dark places I see out there. You have to include everything in, because the mind is striving for integration, because there's only one mind, and that's the mind of God. And if I'm real, if I'm alive, then I must be a part of that.
The thing that shifted things absolutely and totally, which was the realization that the responsibility and that reality was only my own mind and only my own thoughts. And then when that shifted, and when I realized that I didn't have to try to save anything outside of myself, but that everything outside of myself was already in me and was just a product of my own consciousness, then things started to move fast.
And that's where the Course really began to show me that it was all me, and it was my responsibility. It takes a while to realize that you're really projecting that world, that world is coming totally from your mind, from my mind.
Yes, I give everything that I see the meaning that it has for me, because it's all going on only for me.
What my experience has been in my awakening, in my healing, is that I am responsible. I'm responsible for everything that happens to me, and I'm really responsible for everything I experience. And the Course has brought about a change in my consciousness, a change in how I perceive the world and everyone in it.
No matter how much I've tried to discuss this situation, no matter how much I've tried to discuss and philosophize the idea of transformation of the mind, it doesn't mean a thing. It doesn't matter how many miracles I've seen, how many wondrous events I've witnessed. It doesn't mean a thing unless I am willing to change my mind. And through the change of my mind, I'm starting to see this world differently.
What keeps the world in chains but your beliefs? And what can save the world except yourself? Belief is powerful indeed. The thoughts you hold are mighty, and illusions are as strong in their effects as is the truth. A madman thinks the world he sees is real and does not doubt it. nor can he be swayed by questioning his thoughts' effects. It is but when their source is raised to question that the hope of freedom comes to him at last. Yet is salvation easily achieved, for anyone is free to change his mind, and all his thoughts change with it. Now the source of thought has shifted, for to change your mind means you have changed the source of all ideas you think, or ever thought, or yet will think. You free the past from what you thought before. You free the future from all ancient thoughts of seeking what you do not want to find. The present now remains the only time. Here in the present is the world set free, for as you let the past be lifted and release the future from your ancient fears, you find escape and give it to the world.
And your only way out of this dream, this bad dream of fear, is forgiveness. It's an impossible teaching, and yet it is the only way out.
And I knew that my problem was also that I couldn't really forgive. And this was also the problem why I was not free, because I did not know how I should let go of certain things I thought someone really did to me.
I was given another glimpse at how I can leave this place. And finally, that was forgiveness.
All of a sudden, I just realized it was like, it was whispered in my ear that I didn't have to wait on anything, that there was no time needed in order for that to be healed. And immediately, my brother was standing there with me. It was totally amazing. He was right there with me. Like, I wanted him to experience what I was experiencing, because I could feel the pain that he was in, and it was my pain. And bam, he was right there with me. And I literally experienced grabbing his hand and just completely leaving this whole place. And in that moment, my whole entire experience with him came back to me, was present with me, and I absolutely knew who he was and who I was. And I knew that we were together, and that there was no death, and that there was no time, no space between us. And I found myself.
Forgiveness recognizes what you thought your brother did to you has not occurred. It does not pardon sins and make them real. It sees there was no sin, and in that view are all your sins forgiven. What is sin except a false idea about God's Son? Forgiveness merely sees its falsity and therefore lets it go. What then is free to take its place is now the will of God.
There was an experience at the Millennium Peace Conference, the Association of Japanese that were representing some problems they're having with their children and the need for love and forgiveness. And I remembered so well within my mind the recognition of the devastation that was at the atomic bomb area in 1945, when I stood where there had been 100,000 people that were gone, and I recognized the ambivalence as a young Marine of knowing that the war had now been ended because of this. There was an occurrence that I shared with a former enemy. I haven't told this story often, where I sat together with an enemy of which I knew his capacity to defend his country, having been evident to me in combat in South Pacific. I was certain of his capacity to dedicate himself entirely to the honor of his mind. And we sat together in the recognition of that power and forgave each other in the recognition of the solution we found. That was the beginning of my discovery of singularity within my own heart and mind. Can you feel that experience with me? I want you to, because at least at that time it gave me a relief in the recognition that what had been my enemy had now become my friend. That's the offering that I'm giving to you in the service of my mind to yours. If we will lay down our defenses, okay, as we no longer attack each other, the power of peace and love will emerge in us in that recognition.
What happened was I recognized all of the love that had been offered to me all through my life, and I had refused to accept. It was like I was given a life scan where each and every player in my life, I was able to receive the gift that they had given me. This is the experience of forgiveness.
Right as we were on the bus coming to the final performance, I just came completely undone. I suddenly felt a moment of total forgiveness wash over me, and it was like I saw every person for the first time. All of the things we'd been through, the conflicts, the frustrations, the struggle, the hard work, was completely washed away in this moment, and all I felt for each and every one of them was just pure love. And I knew then that forgiveness has nothing to do with what anyone has done, but it's a present recognition. And that's what I would like to share with you, because that is what is real. And that is what is available to us all the time. And that is what I found in A Course in Miracles.
And I realized there was a God. And I realized that nobody has ever done anything to me. And that literally my parents were completely innocent. They were completely innocent.
So I went to her and said, "Mommy, will you forgive me?" And she looked at me and she said, "Darling, there's nothing to forgive." Wow.
It dawned on me, my God, I can't hold grievance. My favorite grievance that I'd been cherishing for so many years was literally taken away. I couldn't justify in my own mind holding it anymore. And as soon as I realized that it was just gone, I found God in that moment. I was back into that euphoric state that I had had as a child. Literally, that's what forgiveness does. It just takes this whole thing away, and you find a different state of mind.
I mean, plenty of times I've been walking down the street, angry, or just sitting on my bed in no special mood at all. And then all of a sudden, this light, this love dawns on my awareness. And the only thing I can attribute that is just willingness.
There's just a gift of understanding and a gift of release, a gift of forgiveness. There's nothing else. There's nothing else going on but just that. And everything is included.
I didn't have any idea that that sentence, that idea would make forgiveness completely possible. And unlike any forgiveness, any pardoning of something that someone else had done to me in order to buy my way into heaven.
When I read that line, that it was really nothing here to forgive, I mean, like, give me a moment to at least make a list of whom I should forgive or what I should forgive. After that awakening, I realized that you would be here forever doing that. It's always over. Every moment, it's always over. It's a fresh opening. It's always an awakening. Every moment is an awakening.
I just really long for the experience that the Course was talking about. I really long to have that experience of awakening.
I had no idea that this was going to be physical. I mean, I thought it was going to be some mental thing that I was going to get that was going to just make me feel so good about myself and about the world. What a surprise. I mean, it was nothing like I thought. One of the first things that happened with me was that I started doing the lessons of A Course in Miracles, not having any idea what they meant. I read the text like it was a book, like most people would read a book, over like 4 or 5 days, didn't understand a word of it. And then I started having these experiences.
That initial occurrence was completely beyond anything I had ever experienced as this human being, as I knew myself. Through this experience, and in this experience, I realized that minds are joined. That's what the experience actually was, that minds are joined. And that there is only mind, that there is nothing else. So I could say that everything is one in truth.
So that was the beginning of my awakening, which I call the big one, or you could call it in the Christian vernacular, you could call that being born again. I'm sure there's all sorts of mystical associations involved with that. But what happened to me physically is that my crown chakra opened, I guess. It's another idea. And I started having light experiences and being released into the universe instead of being contained in my little form, which was making me very unhappy because it's not a natural state.
Went through the process, and this huge crack that went through the top of my head and down my forehead woke me up, so to speak. And the minute I let go, I am given even more. I'm just shown more and more and more.
And then I experienced myself as energy, and it was beautiful, but my mind was now in an action of extension that it just wanted more and more, because now I started discovering myself as pure mind. And that led to an experience of beyond the body.
I found myself in experiences of light
and happiness and joy that has absolutely nothing to do with this world or this place at all. Completely lifted out.
I had, just experiences that were not of this world. They disoriented me so much because they turned my whole world absolutely upside down. Everything that I thought was real was not real.
There was a particular moment when it opened up so dramatically, there's no way that I could put words to it. But in the middle of the experience, I realized I was having an experience of joy and that I had never experienced joy before. I was having an experience that had nothing to do with this world. It was perfect.
It took me a point in my heart and in my mind where I saw the love that I was sharing with my brother. And in that moment, all the pain, all the suffering disappeared.
And boom, here I was. There was a guy. He was speaking about an experience. He was speaking about the light. And it was just like it did one more in my head. It was just like, oh, I heard that. I know what he's talking about. I was like wide awake. There was no time. There was no people. There was only God. I've been living in total grace.
And it took me a while, to get my orientation back and to start to incorporate the things that were happening into this, because they didn't have anything to do with this world. There's no way I could even tell you about them because there are no human words to describe the experiences that I was having. It's not that I couldn't tell you, it's that it's impossible to tell you. And it's fantastic, and it's out of this world. It's truly not of this world at all. Has nothing really to do with this world. So I have no other purpose now except to say, no, there's something else going on, and it's something absolutely magnificent. It's beyond your wildest dreams.
What has happened to me has been a shift from an experience of myself and identity as a body to really recognizing myself as light, and that my understanding of everything that has occurred to me because of the light that has been associated with it.
And it isn't that my ideas
and memories went away, but they all began to constellate in a new manner around the central idea of light that was permanent now. It was like a window opened, and that it always stayed there in my mind. And the thoughts that I used to think, while they were still there, they began to organize in a new way to facilitate a new purpose, or in fact, the only true purpose that I've been able to see in this world. And that is a purpose of going to the light and stepping beyond the form altogether.
I had absolutely nothing to do with it. I felt, I don't even know what it was, and now I know that it was light. It literally came down through the top of my head. And the next words out of my mouth were, I didn't have to drink anymore.
So I began to experience light energy for the first time. I began to experience an energy that was vibrant and alive, and I began to experience myself as light. I began to experience my mind as being more fluid and free than what I previously did before.
And then I started having huge light experiences. And by huge light experiences, I mean where I was just a total explosion of light. And I hoped that these would not come at inappropriate times. and Jesus, God, thank you, Jesus. They never did. They never did. Everything did, as Jesus says in the Course, keep gentle pace with my awakening.
I had an experience of light, like energy that I felt. And actually that's when I felt that energy, that's when suddenly the Course made sense to me. Suddenly those sentences, they became real. Like they were a part of me. It was not something outside of myself, but it was like, oh, I had the experience and suddenly I read my experience. And then everything that was expressed in the Course in Miracles was part of me. And from then on, oh man, it just started to get better and better and better and expand and expand. And then I actually started to love myself, which I never thought was possible.
This is an extraordinary experience. It's an experience that can't be explained. Obviously, it's an experience. So the Course in Miracles is a living thing to me. It's me discovering myself. It's a living document.
The light experience on a day like today is not different than that one I had 15 years ago. The quality of the light is exactly the same. And yet you can describe what's happened since then as an evolution or a maturation or simply a change in my ability to extend the light as my association has been purified through constant reference to the light. And that's what the lessons of A Course in Miracles are, this constant reference to this solid light idea.
And it was just like a holographic experience. Like it was just in one instant, I got a download of what this is. And I knew in my heart and my bones and my whole body that I found something that's really true. and that I was taken care of. Somewhere I'm on the right track.
My entire desire to commit suicide was gone from my mind. And like this devastating cloud that was hanging over my head was just like lifted, and it just went away, and I thought that was amazing. I had nothing to do with that change in my mind, and that, I guess you could call that the first really profound miracle for me.
I'm free today. I'm free of that fear and the anger and the judgment, which is how I live my life at every moment prior to my awakening experience.
My whole idea about life, everything was changed. I completely changed my mind about everything. It didn't matter what the doctors thought. It didn't matter what the nurses thought. It didn't matter what anyone thought. I knew that something miraculous had happened to me, and my life was completely changed.
I realized that God was always there. He had never left me. There was a power and light and a presence and a bliss and a purity which I knew was me. I hadn't died. I came alive.
Everything that looked separate in space and time really wasn't true. There was a whole field of energy or a reality that was totally unifying, that's going on simultaneously, and I'm never apart from that.
All I can say is something really remarkable has happened. And the story I've just told you doesn't do justice to what has happened to me.
I know I am really blessed, and I'm so grateful for what has been offered me. A way home.
Because I know that everything is light, and that the light is in everything. And it's just an experience that I got because I'm doing the Course in Miracles.
And and the way it looks doesn't really matter. Like, it's unique for every one of us, and for me it's been really unique. And it finally always comes down to the acceptance of my own innocence.
The love of God is all around me. It's everywhere that I go. At every moment, I'm never apart from, well, as the Course says, if you knew who walked with you. This is all I ever need, is the love that is sustaining for me, the love of God.
If you want to know the truth, you're going to find it. You're sincere, you want to know the truth, so it's inevitable. I don't know how long it's going to take you. It's going to take you as long as it takes you, but you're going to find out the truth simply because you sincerely want to, for no other reason. But you got to want it above all else.
There is nothing to fear. 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 There is There's nothing to fear. There's nothing to fear. There's nothing to fear. Today's practice periods will be very short, very simple and very frequent. You can use it with your eyes open at any time and in any situation. Use the idea immediately should anything disturb your peace of mind. There is nothing to fear. 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 There is nothing to fear.
I woke up with what I knew to be a future memory of my own resurrection. And the time between my memory of a future resurrection and sitting quietly in my room had completely collapsed. I was resurrected now.
Would you like to perform with me the act of resurrection that was just offered you within that lesson? It says very simply that your body is a particle association in light form that holds your separate particles of mind together. You project them from you and formulate other particles of thought form that you call mass, symbolize them in separation, and actually hold yourself together in a body form. What I'm offering you through your own light is the certainty that that can be collapsed in the realization of who you are, right? So what do? You reassemble the body, all right, in the idea that you are whole and perfect as you were created. You are the living Son of God Himself. The formulation that you perform in the act of holding your conceptual mind in the idea of a consciousness of separation is not true.
And then one day I realized I was really sick. And I went to the doctor and he said, "You have cancer." And I couldn't believe it because I thought I was doing everything right. I had found the answer. I was in mind training and I was meditating and I wasn't eating meat. And I thought, I'm doing everything right. How can I be sick?
It was the worst year of my life. I died twice. Once was the breast cancer. And I was lying in hospital waiting to have the breast removed. I had this, but I wasn't in the experience of it. So probably for the first time in my life, I prayed. I really prayed. I mean, really. And something happened that night where I just knew I was going to be okay. And it had nothing to do with the body. So the next morning, when the doctor wheeled me in for my operation, I let everything be exactly as it was. I didn't have to change anything. And when I woke up from the anesthetic, he leaned over me with a smile on his face and he said, "We found nothing." I knew I'd had a miracle.
Some of the defining moments was one when I had 4 leaking heart valves and I couldn't function too well as far as moving around. I was out of breath a lot. And I can only say through the grace of God that those valves got healed. And when I went for the echosoniogram, the doctors were shocked. They were like, this must be a miracle or something because we've never seen heart valves heal themselves.
The performance of the miracle of the conversion of your body based on the sharing of the form of our own identities of recognition of wholeness will heal you instantly from the idea that you were that body.
Now, let's look at your body for a moment. Your body is mostly space. If we took out all of the space between your atoms, between your electrons, between your cells, between everything that you call your body would actually be the size of a pinpoint. That's how much space that there is in what you call your body. So you're all space. The Earth, if we took all of the space out of the Earth would literally be the size of my thumb.
What have we done? we've increased the frequency of the energy and power of light to continually convert the body identity so that we can represent new light bodies to each other in the recognition of the merger of our dark form into a new centering of what we are.
Now, I know that's hard to understand if you haven't actually had the experience yourself, because light to you is opposed to darkness in only that it's a brightness. Well, I can only tell you that everything changes in your entire body and your mind, and people experience that differently. Some, like myself, get it in my head mostly. Some feel it in their heart, some feel it in their solar plexus. Some actually don't have very much of a physical experience at all in that way. They just may have changes that occur in their body. But all I can say is that it's happening. The second coming is here. And what it is it's you coming out of your experience of yourself as a human being into the totality of who you really are, which is something that is not this.
And then one day I just bent over to pick up the trash and something snapped in my back and I was on the floor. And I could not get up. And it was just the strangest experience of just having no power in my legs whatsoever. And I was on the floor, and that moment basically changed my life forever.
So I didn't know that what was happening to me at the time. And this energetic frequency started at the base of my back and started working its way up my back. And I just kind of would move around, and it felt kind of strange. I now know it's the Kundalini.
And I felt an immense amount of energy in the base of my spine come all the way up into my neck. And I'm a pretty strong guy. I mean, I used to bench 225 pounds 10 times, and I tried to resist what was happening to me because it was foreign, and I'd never felt anything like this energy that was happening to me. But resistance was futile because my head went all the way back, and literally Joni and Laurel had to hold me as I fell onto the ground, and I had this energy coursing through my body. And I had no idea what was going on, and Laurel even said he's melting, which caused me to have a little bit of fear because obviously I don't want my brain to melt. So as I was on the ground, I let whatever was occurring occur. I surrendered into it. I stood up. I wept because I was afraid. And I went into the break room and had a cup of coffee. What else are you going to do?
As far as the physical aspect of it goes, I actually underwent a physical awakening of my body, of my cells, of my DNA, and it included an Eastern idea of chakra awakening, and the initial energetic occurrence that happened to me in this light frame that I've been talking about when I started having light episodes. It started here and rose up. And Jesus will express that as the cup runneth over, and it took a little moment for me to mature into these centers of light.
As I allowed and accepted these light references from the Course into my mind, as the energy increased, it had a physical component associated with it. As the light ideas arose, the energy in the body moved more rapidly. It increased in such a way that I was able to see that there was a direct correlation between yoking to the light or accepting the light reference and a physical experience associated with it. As I ascended through the body reference or the body experience, which culminated in let's call it an opening of the crown. Yes, there was an audible crack. My crown literally opened up. The light exploded from within, out the top of my head, and then kind of streamed down.
And one day, something in my mind just popped. And I was just jumping up and down for no apparent reason. And something in my mind blew open, like a portal or a light. Something happened in my mind where my mind just popped. It was like a window opened. And I knew that that was a portal, an exit out of here, out of this world. It was like a window to another world or another reality. And it was so shocking and so sudden that it was almost terrifying. There was a moment of fear involved with it as well. where I didn't know what was happening. It was so sudden and spontaneous that it took me by surprise.
Wow, fue como si mi mente se expandiera, como si mi cabeza se abriera y empezara como a extenderse y a extenderse y a extenderse completamente, y como si mi cuerpo hubiera desaparecido y estuviera solo como una gran extensión de mi ser. E inmediatamente yo recordé, oh my God, oh mi Dios.
I had this huge experience that was really physical, really emotional, and it felt like I just died. I just died right there.
Death suddenly was something really real and inevitable for the first time. Suddenly, the idea of being mortal and that at some point it's going to be all over and there's going to be nothing ever again creeps into your mind, and I was scared. I remember for weeks I would lie in bed at night. I was too scared to think about it, and I was too scared not to think about it. And I would lie in my bed and sweat, and I just didn't know, and there was no one I could talk to about it.
Something must have happened. I think it was my grandfather dying, which then the first time the idea of death arose. And I remember being very disturbed by that, not really understanding what actually happened to my grandfather. I must have been probably about 6 or 7 maybe. And I, laid in bed at night, and again I was with my friend, and suddenly I got up and I went to ask my mom, Mom, what is death? Like, where did Grandpa go? And my mom said to me, well, everybody has to die. We're all going to die. And I don't know what that is, and I don't know where we go. And I remember that I was so disturbed by that she didn't know what death is and where we go. And I was terrified that suddenly I realized, oh my God, she's going to die. I said, you're going to die? Yes. Dad is going to die? Yes. My brother's going to die. And, from that moment on, I was terrified because I felt alone. Suddenly, I felt that I was going to be alone because everybody was going to die, including myself. And nobody knew where we're going to go. And I remember that from that moment on, I was actually in total terror and fear. And the friend was gone. And there were monsters under my bed. There were mummies in the closet. And I was actually just in fear the whole time.
I came here into my experience of time-space with a complete plan to kill myself and to die. And so my being here was also a sequence of many, many death episodes. And finally, I recognized in my awakening, something occurred to me. I had an experience which just had nothing to do anymore with my perception. And what I call awakening was simply my recognition of, oh my God, I can't die. I'm still myself. It's impossible to die.
My body died too, and absolutely nothing happened. Like I was just still left with myself.
You know, the one thing that my dad told me on the phone after I tried to kill myself was, you're always, always gonna have to be you. And that was just unbearable to me. I mean, I knew I probably wouldn't go to heaven from killing myself, but I hoped I could come back as something else, like a fly or a dog or something. And when he said, you're always gonna be you, I knew I had to look for a solution because I knew I didn't like what I thought I was.
My first attempt at suicide was when I was 15 years old. All of a sudden it occurred to me that I could kill myself. I was like, oh my God, freedom at last.
War dann plötzlich ein Glücksmoment. Ich habe gesehen, ich habe nichts zu verlieren. Das war eigentlich eine Überraschung, dass ich war plötzlich frei.
And of course that didn't work. And I tried several more times and it never worked. Then I discovered, after my final suicide attempt, that death was actually impossible because I knew I had killed myself the last time I tried. I knew that I had killed myself. And yet, here I was again. And one thing I did realize from that particular experience was that death was impossible. I finally saw that it was impossible for me to obliterate my consciousness by attempting to eliminate my body. And it was like that experience I used to have, all that practice as a 4-year-old came back, where I saw very, very clearly that I'm not a body at all. Destroying the body does not eliminate or obliterate my consciousness.
Ich möchte über 2 Erfahrungen in meinem Leben sprechen, die mir für mich bewiesen haben, dass es keinen Tod gibt. Und die erste war, ich hatte eine Schwester, mit der ich sehr verbunden war. Und sie wurde von ihrem Mann umgebracht und ich habe sehr gelitten darunter. Aber ich träumte dann von ihr, dass sie einfach auf einer Blumenwiese daherkam, lachend und ich sagte zu ihr, ja, wo kommst du denn her? Gertrude, ich dachte, du bist tot. Und sie sagte, na, schau mich an, ich bin doch nicht tot. Ich bin wie immer. Und sie war einfach total schön. Und ich sagte, wow, jetzt musst du mir aber sagen, wie es da ist. Das möchte ich jetzt wirklich ganz genau wissen. Und sie sagte, ja, schau, es ist einfach nur schön. Ich lebe, du siehst, ich lebe. Und sie war dann verschwunden Aber für mich war das einfach eine unglaubliche Erfahrung. Ja, es gibt keinen Tod.
My first experience that I remember when I don't remember how old I was, fairly young, maybe 5, 6. My great-grandmother died, and when we were at the funeral home, I'm standing with my mother, I'm standing beside my mother, and the next thing I look at the casket, my grandmother's peeking around behind the casket at me, and she's going, shh, shh. And I'm looking at her, and then I look at my mom, and my mom's not even paying any attention. And I was just really, I didn't know what to do with that. And I didn't feel that I could tell my mom. I didn't think she'd believe me, for one thing. And then my grandmother did tell me not to say anything by shushing me. It was amazing. And then in my teen years, when my grandfather died, he was my favorite grandfather. I was so certain that he didn't die. When my mom came home and told me that he died, I said, no, he's not dead. And she said, she said to me, that's not true, he just died. I said, no, he didn't. And she wouldn't believe me. My brothers thought I was crazy. And so that's my first dealings with death. I just, somehow on some level, I knew that it wasn't true. I just didn't know how to put it into my life, to reconcile it.
I'm not a victim of anything anymore. And this was most dramatically expressed to me when my parents died. It's in their dying that I came to have a direct experience that no one dies. And I was forced up to another level of communication, nonverbal. It was a miracle to me, because I found that I had been putting this experience of eternal life out in some timeline out in the future, and I realized it was right now.
My grandmother introduced me to it, and she was just amazing. She was the first person in my life to show me there is no death.
And one day I went to visit him, and the bed was empty. And I was kind of surprised and shocked, and I was crying, and I didn't know he was that close to leaving. So I got in the taxi cab and went home. And instantly in my apartment, I felt his presence with me, and he held my hand. And he thanked me, and he said, that he was fine and that he was happy. And I knew there was no way that was happening without all of this Course in Miracles and Jesus speaking to me. And that really changed my life, because I knew there was no death after that. I guess that's the beginning of really my awakening.
And I can look at pictures of my oldest son, who quote unquote died last November, November. And it doesn't faze me in the least, because I know it's not true. There's no death, because life's eternal. Life is eternal. And I am what life is, and I am not a body. I am not a body, and neither are you. That's the good news. That's the good news.
I also knew, without a shadow of a doubt, that I was eternal, that I cannot die. And at the same time, life has nothing to do with this. It is eternal and has nothing to do with this very tiny and limited containment that we call space-time. It just has nothing to do with it. The two worlds don't touch.
I came to realize there is no death, because death was just an impossible idea. I used to sit there and ponder when I was really young what it was like to be in complete oblivion.
And when I would go there, all I would find was that I was really fearful. And I recognized that the fear was really not one of being obliterated, but it was being in an indefinite state of hell.
I had an experience that totally changed my life. What had happened was I was in an automobile accident where the truck flipped over and fell on me, and I had a light experience. And in that light experience, I had traveled up to a place what I would call heaven, or a place beyond this world. And in that experience, I met Jesus. That may sound funny to some of you. Perhaps you don't believe in Jesus, and I really didn't at that time either. He asked me one question. He said, basically, do you want to stay or do you want to go? And at that time, it was such an overwhelming feeling that I decided I wanted to come back. And I said, I want to go. And what he did is he handed me a bundle. I had no idea what that bundle was till later on.
The experience lifted me out of any reference I had about myself or God, or beyond even words, into a light experience. And I really literally left the earth and I traveled through space into the universe.
What really happened is that I died. I lost the entire world. I didn't know anything that was happening. When I woke up, what I saw is not the bathroom that I was in, but I thought it was the stained glass window of Cathedral of Notre Dame, which I'd seen a couple of years earlier. That's what I saw, is this stained glass window. It was absolutely magnificent. And I was coming through the center of it. I had the impression that I'd gone out through the center of it, and I was coming back through the center of it. You might say, well, is this your hallucination? No, that's really what happened.
Well, the experience was of being out of time, being gone from here. I actually had an experience of being born, and I remembered, I heard myself saying in my mind, no, not this again, I don't want to come back here.
I love what is happening to me, and I was guided in this search. And I remember that a little later on, I had a couple more experiences. I experienced myself for an instant leaving this physical form, leaving my body, which, you know, we call death. But I realized that in that moment, which seemed to be death, for just an instant, when I totally left my body, that I actually couldn't die. that I wasn't dead, that I was pure consciousness, that I was out in the universe, that I was limitless, and that I was free, and that I was loved, and that there was love beyond anything I've experienced in my normal life.
And still, though, the intensity of the light experience showed me that anything that was happening here was completely unreal.
And I've had the experience where standing in the light where this whole world diminishes, and I know that this is not life, has nothing to do with life. And it might seem like an incredibly fearful moment or realization, but it's not. It's the most joyous occurrence that I could ever have and share. And that would be the only thing that I want to give away and would want anybody to have. And to know that that's your right. And that nobody can take this away from me. It has nothing to do with learning of this world. It has to do with who I really am.
I absolutely know that Jesus is with me. And if there's one thing that I would want to say to you today, it's that Jesus is here. Through Master Teacher and through the Course in Miracles, I came to know Jesus as my brother and my Savior. It was Jesus that healed me of the cancer. I knew then that that was where I belonged. I knew that this is what I was going to do.
My resurrection comes again each time I lead a brother safely to the place at which the journey ends and is for God. I am renewed each time a brother learns there is a way from misery and pain. I am reborn each time a brother's mind turns to the light in him and looks for me. I have forgotten no one. Help me now to lead you back to where the journey was begun, to make another choice with me.
Let the dead bury the dead. That's always been in the back of my mind. That's always been with me, the immediacy of this, the shortening of time, the idea of miracles and love and forgiveness, but it had to be now. I couldn't wait. I knew it was now. And I think that was the most important thing for me to learn, was that Jesus was with me now.
The time between his resurrection and my time now resurrected collapsed absolutely. And I knew instantly, without any learning, that his resurrection was my resurrection. And that when he resurrected, supposedly 2,000 years ago, he resurrected for everyone and for all time, from the beginning of time until the end of time. And in fact, there was only one resurrection and one body resurrected.
As a Catholic, I was raised to celebrate the idea of death, the idea of a punishment, the idea of guilt. And now I can be guilty of being the Son of God, of being perfect as God created me. And I much rather celebrate that. And that's what not only fun, but it's also what's real. That finally I found something real.
I'm having an experience of God that I've always been looking for. I know God, like I know God in my heart. Sorry. I know God in my heart. And that's the experience that I'm in now every moment.
What God shows me was that there was no death. And in that recognition that love that we share together, this whole world disappears.
God holds out his hand to his son to help him rise and return to him. I can help because the world is an illusion, and I have overcome the world. Look past the tomb, the body, the illusion. Have faith in nothing but the Spirit and the guidance God gives you. He could not have created the body because it's a limit. He must have created the spirit because it is immortal. Can those who are created like him be limited? The body is the symbol of the world. Leave it behind. It cannot enter heaven. But I can take you there anytime you choose. Together, we can watch the world disappear and its symbol vanish as it does so. And then, I cannot speak of that.
I will be still an instant and go home. I will be still an instant and go home. My kingdom is not of this world. This is not where I belong. I will be still an instant and go home. I will be still an instant and go home. I will be still an instant and go home. My kingdom is not of this world. This is not where I belong. I will be still an instant and go home.
love you. And there's no world. And thank God that I awakened, because those of you who are having an experience of yourself that's not creative, that's the opposite of what life is. Life is love, full extension, full love in every aspect, in every interval, and every time zone, and every, I don't know, I'm obviously trying to describe something that's literally indescribable because it's an experience. So in that sense, I would invite you to undergo that experience that I did, and it came about in me as a result of not wanting anything else, I guess.
Those brief moments throughout my life, finally coming to the Course in Miracles, being offered a complete alternative, asking for a complete alternative, and being willing to accept a complete alternative, has shown me, has literally awakened my mind to the fact of a brand new reality, a completely brand new reality right here and now.
It just becomes so easy. I would suggest to anyone who ever wants to have an experience beyond their own making, find A Course in Miracles, pick it up, and let it undo you. That's all I can say, because there's only one of us. My awakening is your awakening. Your awakening is mine.
And so this story of my remembrance, of my awakening, of God being really ever present, of the shift of my consciousness away from fear and guilt-based, was brought about because by the grace of God, there was the radio on and the words A Course in Miracles were spoken, and I remembered.
This is an experience of the sharing of our love, which is what the love of God is. We have it together now at this time and place, and what has occurred within your memory of yourself as a body in space-time in regard to this will never leave you. It has become a part of the totality of what you are within the arrangement of your own dream. This is why it's called A Course in Miracles, isn't it? Because the miracle of that occurrence that offered you that link with divine reality cannot actually be described within the conceptual association. What does it become? An experience. It becomes an experience of the love that we are expressing for each other in the totality of the realization of that single mind.
The Course in Miracles starts as being a theology, starts as being a discipline of mind training. And as those blocks to the awareness of love's presence are dissolved, I come into a deeper, richer, meaningful experience of the divine, both in myself and my brother, who is me.
I was totally grateful to have the Course and to also have some other books that have been written by different people who have undergone the same experience. They've been Eastern masters, they've been books about the Kundalini awakening. that brought it all together in a context of what could be called enlightenment, or it could be called resurrection. Now, the word resurrection comes in the Course, and that comes from Jesus, who's telling you what is going to happen to you with your mind and your body.
The realm of the spiritual awakening is in the idea of the subjective discovery of yourself. The illumination of your mind is in the experience directly that you are not separate from anything in space and time, that at a subatomic level, you are directly connected to everyone and everything. So that person that you pass on the street that you think you don't know, you actually are sharing electrons with them. And if you didn't do that, both of you would cease to be. So here you have a relationship with someone that you call a complete stranger, and yet you know that person more intimately than you could possibly know anyone else.
When I started to teach it, I could hear it even more. And then there was a joining that occurs too. And it occurs now here with me, with you. There's a joining that occurs that is everything. And without that joining, again, there's nothing going on.
The Course of Miracles, it's really given me my purpose. It's really given me the understanding of what my purpose is here, and is the perfect guide for, for being about that.
This is something that has filled the hole in me, which was myself. That's why I couldn't find it in any of those other people and in any of those other places, because I was looking in the wrong place. The problem was me and who I even thought I was. And where I thought I was and what I thought I was supposed to do here. And all of those things were wrong. And I thought God was just really far away and you just prayed to him. I'm him. I am on holy ground wherever I move.
You are God's Son, complete and healed and whole, shining in the reflection of His love. In you is His creation sanctified and guaranteed eternal life. In you is love perfected, fear impossible, and joy established without opposite. You are the holy home of God Himself. You are the heaven where His love resides. You are His holy sinlessness itself, for in your purity abides His own.
The experience that I've been looking for, and I'm certain that you are looking for it also, is that you find yourself, that you experience the truth of who you are as God created you. You're not a body, you can't die, there is no world, but there's an other experience available for you, and I am in that demonstration.
I was completely wrong about everything that I thought that was happening to me as a human being. All of my ideas of separation and pain and suffering were completely wrong.
Then my attachment to the world dissolved, and gently and surely I came through the other end, where my total devotion to my spiritual path, to my enlightenment, is assured. A Course in Miracles, as the title says, is a miraculous experience of enlightenment.
This is incredible. There's no other book like that. I never had anything else like that. It's incredible. It has been written out of time to reach us in time, to tell us, wake up, there is no world. Wow.
There is an all-loving God, all-powerful, all-knowing, who is ready, willing, and able, and anxious to give that experience of what lies beyond this world of perceptual phenomena.
I left the world behind because there wasn't anything here, and I discovered that I was dreaming, that this really was a dream of my own making.
So, okay, I was so grateful to know that God did not create this meaningless world, that I was kind of horrified in the beginning when I was told, yeah, you did that. The ideas of sin and death and aging are yours. They're not God's ideas. So it took a moment for that to come in and for me to take that on as a responsibility. But always knowing that this is an illusion, that I could not do that only in a dream. I cannot affect what's unaffectable, what God created perfect, except in a dream. And somewhere in the Bible, I guess in the beginning, it says Adam fell into a deep sleep.
I woke up. I woke up in this dream and discovered that there was a God, and I discovered a new way to think, a new way to see, through the grace of God, through the Master Teacher, through Jesus, my Savior, who was always with me. And I've just discovered a new way to be here and now. And wow.
The whole universe opened up. That's the only way I can explain it. It was definitely like a cloud of unknowing was just lifted from me. It just came off, and I could see clearly.
Something happened. It was as if a veil lifted, and I was at home. I was at home, and I knew I was home. And it was bright, and it was clear, and it was happy, and it was whole, and it was home.
Suddenly, I was, everything opened up. I had my eyes completely open, and suddenly my mind completely opened up to a completely different state of consciousness. And I was utterly aware of the perfection of everything. And I was looking around, and what I would feel in terms of emotions, I was in a total, absolute state of joy, complete joy and love that cannot even be described. Of course, this experience cannot even be described. There's no way I could deny what had happened to me, and the fact that that experience had shown me that there was something completely different going on besides this.
Everything disappeared. The house disappeared, the veranda disappeared, everything disappeared. There was absolutely no form that I could see, that I could perceive as a human at all. There didn't seem to be any color, there was nothing. But in this seeming void was everything. It was like I was being held in God's hand. And I felt this overwhelming sense of peace, of being totally taken care of. This love, like, I have no words to describe it. There was just me being totally held in God's hand. And I knew I was at home.
One thing I can say is that I was changed in my entirety. And the way back to human consciousness was eliminated. There is no way back to human consciousness. An opening has been illuminated in me. There's no way it can be closed again. I am alive. I cannot die.
I had no reference point from where I was at. And I said to her, I want to go back. And she goes, go back to what, you chicken shit?
Once you connect with this light, this purpose, this function, it's so immediate, you will not even be able to recognize it, that you've been hurled into reality.
And the vistas, the universe that opens up in front of you is amazing.
The light experience of itself really has no meaning except in the conversion or healing of my mind, which apparently, as a teaching mechanism, takes place over time. Even though time is not real, apparently that was what was required.
You literally, in your transformation, in your awakening, your illumination, you literally come to the end of time, to the wholeness, the absolute wholeness that you are, the perfection that is what reality is. And it's incredible because that was my heart's desire, that I wanted to see where evolution went. And it's in you now, in you now.
I think that's been probably the greatest revelation, is that this really is happening to me. This really is something that is occurring as I wake up to myself. It's an amazing thing. The gratitude is boundless.
I'm just grateful to have any opportunity where I can be used to extend my passion, extend my joy, extend the message of A Course in Miracles, which is really, really quite a simple message. You know, it's just, you know, I'm an alien in exile here and I don't have to do this anymore. I really don't have to do this. There's a way out. It's given to me and I can actually just say yes, allow myself to be undone, It's just an extraordinary experience to, you know, it's not of my own making, it's not of my own doing. It's all done by the Holy Spirit. I mean, it can't get any easier than this.
As we share this goal, we increase its power to attract the whole sonship and to bring it back into the oneness in which it was created. Remember that yoke means joined together, and burden means message. Let us restate, my yoke is easy and my burden light, in this way. Let us join together, for my message is light.
I remembered that bundle that Jesus gave me, and I started to think about that bundle. It was almost like a grouping of dirty clothes or a group of rags tied together. And as I started to do the course, each one of those would peel back, almost like the layers of an onion. And as they peeled back, that bundle became lighter and lighter, and it started to glow. And it was just an awakening, and it really goes beyond words. It was almost as though there was a big, silly joke out there. You ever been in a crowd and people tell a group of people jokes, and maybe 8 of the 10 people get it, and you're one of the 2 that doesn't? And suddenly you go home at night, and at 3 in the morning you get the joke and you laugh out loud? That's how I felt.
The fundamental experience has always been in the release of the concept of myself. And that's what I've been trying to do. So, and after that, it's, you know, it just becomes fun. And you begin to laugh at the absurdity of how you constructed yourself and how you really wanted to be Tony Schaefer. And how you thought Tony Schaefer had it going on. And thank God it's not so. Yeah.
What will occur, and has occurred for many of us, and is certainly a part of this procedure, is you look at the world in a new light of the discovery of you, and you actually begin to laugh at the joke that you would actually occupy that body and be separate from the reality of what you are. Certainly, if you consider yourself to be a human being and suffer the consequences of your misestablishment, it's not funny. Certainly the idea that you can lose the things that you love, that you could actually occupy that body and suffer, that you would have to sacrifice, that you'd have to protect yourself. Look at you. Look at you. You don't know who you are, what you're doing, where you came from, where you are, but yet you're taught by the world to hold on to that identity. What an absurdity.
I'm a living miracle, and so are you. We really are whole and perfect as God created us. That's what my experience has been.
I felt how perfect I really was. And this whole world disappeared, and I was just perfect. It had nothing to do with any concept I had built of myself. That was just who I was. I was perfect.
And that's what I wanted. I dropped everything and I came to Wisconsin to teach this and to be this, because nothing else meant anything after that. And since that, miracles are just a common occurrence in my life. That's just what happens, and I depend on them for everything. No matter what I'm doing, that this is what I want to do, and I want to give it away. And since then, I see how all my relationships are just built on my dependence on God.
And I really didn't know what was going on until I came to Wisconsin, and I was given a context of that this was an enlightenment process, that what was occurring to me was almost like an evolutionary stage of my experience, or just the total human experience, and that what was happening to me was what happens. It wasn't like it was anything strange, it was totally natural.
The guys who were involved with the Course in Miracles church there told me about this guy they'd recently visited up in Wisconsin, and he did this, that, and immediately I had this incredible experience that was bigger than anything I'd had up to that point. And it completely shifted everything that I thought. It became a window of reference, a light contact that never went away. And from that moment on, I never had another doubt about what I was supposed to do in a larger sense. It gave me a true purpose that this light experience would be what I was looking for, and that my entire life could be dedicated to this.
And when I came here and found the master teacher, universe upon universe opened in my mind. I think you guys are going to have to cut this. Exactly this part. I thought I understood the Course. Then I found out I didn't understand it at all. Because the solution it was offering me was complete, was absolute and total. And I underwent every fear, every resistance, every lack of trust that a human being can undergo. Jesus says in the Course, you come to love still hating. And that's exactly my experience. I was frightened, but at the same time, my desire was so strong that nothing could stop me, not even myself.
The denial of the love of God is nothing but your momentary determination within your own conceptual self to deny who you really are. I'm offering you the truth of who I know you are in the certainty of who I am, in our shared certainty that we came here for just a moment and then returned to heaven. Okay. And that we're actually back in heaven now, remembering this together. I'm a part of your memory, okay, in which you can actually recognize yourself if you choose to. But you're going to have to admit something very fundamental, that the solution I am offering you is not contained within the world. It's not contained within this little time-space factor that is disallowing you instances of communication beyond the stars. That's what the mind of the love of God is offering you.
I know there's something else I can really trust in, and I can really be sure that fear is not real. And it's actually a great thing to happen. I don't have to be afraid for anything anymore.
What is real in me cannot be harmed, and I don't want to be afraid anymore. I just want to let you come to me and join with you and go home.
When you have the true peace that the Course will bring, it's a beautiful, beautiful day. It's a wonderful experience, and there's no way to describe it in conventional terms.
Full fathom 5, thy Father lies. Those are pearls that were his eyes. Of his bones is coral made. Nothing of him doth fade, but doth suffer a sea change into something rich and strange.
La inmensidad del universo está dentro de mí, completamente dentro de mí. Y lo único que mi función acá, lo único que quiero hacer aquí es extender lo que yo soy, extender mi pasión, extender mi luz. Es lo único que quiero hacer aquí. Es lo único que quiero hacer aquí.
I found Course in Miracles, and I got the tools to improve my mind to those kind of experiences, to open up and to give up and to open up, which is the same thing. And it's not that I'm always aware of the light, but I am aware of the direction. I'm totally aware that where to go, where to find the light. And in that sense, what to do here, to go to the light and to open up instead of closing.
It looks like a temporal progression, but one of the amazing things that I have realized in my own experience, and it's even very recent, is that, and this is of course also in the teaching, but sometimes something can hit you like right between the eyes, is the whole idea of the anticipation. It's like the idea that the only thing you can actually do is expect God. The truth of it is, if I just stay in that continuous expectation, I can be happy. It's what Jesus says in the Bible. The time will come and is now. He literally meant that. He literally meant that. And so even if you're in the experience that it's not now, that doesn't matter at all.
The kingdom of heaven is at hand. The kingdom of God comes not with observation. Neither shall they say, Lo here, or there. For behold, the kingdom of God is within you. Verily, verily, I say unto you, the hour is coming, and now is, when the dead shall hear the voice of the Son of God, and they that hear shall live.
Ese es el eterno presente, ahora, solo este instante, en el que estoy contigo. Gracias, Jesús. Gracias, Master Teacher. Sin ti no lo hubiera podido hacer, porque tú hiciste asequible para mí el mensaje de Jesús en un curso de milagros. Solo si te perdonas a ti mismo, encontrarás a Dios.
There were moments of fear, but at the same time there was a total confidence in who was with me, and a willingness to stand still, knowing that the grace of God was forever present with me and with everyone.
There is a God, and I know it, and it's a loving God, and He loves me perfectly, and I'm created perfectly.
All that I could think of was, my God, there is a God. We are divine. We are at one with this magnificent being we call God. And that's all we are. And somewhere along the way, we've lost it. We've thought that this is real. It's not. Only God is real, and God is irresistible. So sooner or later, God is going to get you right in the palm of his hand, because that's where you always are.
And I have like so much gratitude that like it saved me from a lot of shit. I can't even begin to tell you like how I feel when I don't have to be separate from you or afraid or alone or any of that stuff. It's just totally joyful and totally a reunion with God. It's everything I've wanted.
And the yearning actually becomes a joyful, happy experience that is not of this world.
The one thing in my life now that I look to create every day is to trust the process that I find myself in. To trust that I will be taken care of in a bigger picture, in the scheme of things.
Because I want to be a child of God. I want to be a little child and be loved and feel his arms about me. And that's exactly what I'm doing. For me, the light has come and the darkness has gone away.
Thanks to God, and thanks to Jesus for writing the Course in Miracles. Thanks to Master Teacher for every day being there for me, every single day, telling me the truth that I'm not a body, that I'm not this dream figure that I've made up.
Everything's included right here and now. Yeah, this world was over a long time ago. I'm very grateful to be in the world, but not of it at all. And our final ascension is imminent. I mean, in A Course in Miracles, Jesus says, I will barely have time to say, thank you, God, before he takes the final step. And, I always think I'm at thank you, God, because I'm so happy and so grateful, and I can see heaven from here. So I see you on the other side. You're already there with me. So, yeah.
We are perfect. As an awakened mind, I am perfect, and so are you. And this is what you come to realize, that every single one of them is absolutely perfect. There isn't any way that you can make a mistake. It's impossible.
I'm really grateful to be here today and be with like-minded minds that are active, always active, never settle here in time and space location, but are always active in looking ways to express this in a more full way, so that I can be fulfilled in my own mission and my own assignment here. And because it's a very personal message that I received, and it's a very personal message for you to receive as well.
Everything is included in this light experience. And so, why would you not direct your mind to this? There is nothing that you will not be given in order to expand this experience in your own self. So thank you, and I love you.
Yeah, thank you for listening to me and for that opportunity to express myself and my gratitude and my love.
I love you.
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 I love you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And I love you, and I love God, and I love Jesus, and I love the Master.
I love you more than I could ever say.
I love you with all my heart.
And I love you.
I love you.
Thank you. I love you.
And I love you very much. I love you very much.
And I love you.
Thank you. I love you.
Thank you. I love you. Thank you.
I love you. Thank you.
I love you all, and thank you so much for listening.
I love you. Okay? I love you. I'll see you in this new hologram of light.
Oh, God bless us, everyone.
Welcome home.
Y colorín colorado, este cuento se ha acabado.
Cut it.
This is A Course in Miracles. It is a required course.
Let's spend forever in paradise, one moment at a time. Let's be together eternally right now. For if not now, then when? And if not here, then where? Once you were a stranger outside of me, but that was just a dream. Now upon my waking I can see, I know you well, perfectly. or if not now, then when? And if not here, then where? Once you were a stranger outside of me, but that was just a dream. Now upon my waking I can see, I know you well, perfectly. I know you well, perfectly. I know you
It's just a shadow hiding in the dark. Should have flashed out just before the start. You fell asleep in the Garden of Eden. Now it's time to consider leaving. Moving mountains is the least that you can do. Truth is true is all your Savior said. Instead of dying, you can raise up the dead. Human form is a crash-less dummy. Laws of man are useless and funny. Walk on water, that's the least that you can do. Change your mind on what you want to see. There is no world, appearances change accordingly. Nightmares will fade as love extends. Dreams never were, life doesn't end. See you out of time with your friend. I saw you through the veil covering my eyes. Only way to see is with like mine. Where is that world? Here or nowhere. Made from a thought. Don't go there. Moving mountains is the least that you can do. Change your mind on what you want to see. There is no world, appearances change accordingly. Nightmares will fade as love extends. Dreams never were, life doesn't end. I see you out of time, dear friend. Moving mountains, that's the least that you can do. Walk on water, that's the least that you can do. I see you out of time with your friend. I got to go now.